Welcome to the IAB Audio Summit. This was to be our first live event for the year, but unfortunately it was not to be. Probably good considering the public transport issues and the rain in Sydney today, but we're really thrilled that you can all join us today to get a local update on all things streaming audio and podcasting. For those who don't know me, my name is Gai Leroy and I'm CEO of the IAB in Australia. In a weird year, there's been a lot of progress in the audio space. And you'll hear from a range of speakers today on this progress, including the very latest audio advertising State of the Nation research report, which was just released this morning, which is our 6th annual report, which is hard to believe we've been doing it for that long. But I just wanted to highlight some of the initiatives and growth points in the market before we kick off. Since last year's Audio Summit, we've started to collect and categorise a large sample of audio and podcasting revenue from our members. And although we've still got a bit of work to do before we can accurately break out the audio market in Australia, the digital audio market in Australia, as a little teaser, we can see from our September numbers for last year, the September quarter, there was just over 100% increase in the podcasting ad market in Australia for our contributors. So that's a little teaser of what's to come, showing how fast the market is growing. There's also been a number of technical initiatives for podcasting from IAB Tech Lab. We've seen the release of the updated podcast measurement guidelines from 1 to 2, with higher thresholds on user duplication and listening time, amongst other updates. And there's also recent guidance papers on using ads.txt to verify sellers in an audio stream, as well as a paper looking at privacy mechanisms in the podcasting ecosystem. So there'll be a lot more to come over the next year of how the technical market develops. Today we have a great lineup of speakers for you, and we've got a lot to share with you. So we're going to kick off with our State of the Nation research from our research director, Natalie Stanbury. And then we're going to hear from Ralph Van Dyke and Britt Weeks on a great new branding initiative that Tennis Australia have done for the Australian Open. So I'm really pleased we get to share that one with you, today. Then we've gathered all the most common questions that come through in the audio market in Australia into one place. And the wonderful Brooke Anaseko from Publicis is going to pose those questions to a range of experts. We've gathered some amazing people here who are going to give some guidance on some of the common questions in the market at the end. So as I said, pop questions in the Q&A box. We'll get through to what we can get through and the others that we'll answer later. And finally, a big thank you to our audio council members who have put a lot of work into this and will use a lot of this information to drive new initiatives in market. But firstly, over to Nat, who's going to take us through our research. Over to you, Nat.
Great. Thank you so much, Gai. It's great to be with you this morning to present some of the key highlights from the 6th wave of the IAB Advertising State of the Nation survey. What else would we rather be doing on a rainy morning like this, but tucking into some audio market research? Thanks, Gai. The IAB conduct this study with independent research group Hoop Group, and we do this around December and January timing each year. And our aim with this survey is to assess the usage and attitudes amongst decision makers or influencers placing audio advertising campaigns, particularly those within media agencies. So let's get into some highlights. Over the last 6 years, usage of digital audio advertising has consistently grown. Now we've got 7 in 10 media agencies regularly considering streaming digital audio advertising, and 59% now regularly considering podcast advertising. And that increased from 36% last year. For the first time in the 2021 survey, we've split out the specific podcast types into original content, and we have 53% of media agencies using original content podcasts, and catch-up radio, and we have 41% of media agencies using catch-up radio podcasts. So despite the impact of turbulent times, usage of streaming digital audio and podcast advertising has really been minimally impacted by COVID over the last 2 years. Increasingly, digital audio is being planned and bought in combination with other digital advertising. So we've got 65% of media agencies reporting the planning and buying of digital audio collaboratively with digital display activity. Well, we've got 59% reporting planning and buying in combination with digital video. But the greatest increase has been in the buying of digital audio in combination with digital out of home, and we've got 45% doing that. So while buying digital audio with other types of digital advertising is increasing, responses indicate that more focus is required on integrating audio into the wider media mix. The intention to buy audio advertising programmatically has increased over the last few years, and we've now got 64% of media agencies who say they intend to use programmatic for audio over the next year. So media agencies are intending to buy multiple different types of programmatic over the next year, with intentions to buy on open exchanges and private marketplace increasing significantly there. The reasons for using programmatic are changing. So more media agencies have embraced programmatic audio this year for its flexible buying options and its operational efficiency. So while data and targeting still is the dominant factor, there are some significant changes here in the other drivers of programmatic usage. Brand building has been reinforced as the primary and most important objective for digital audio. So the usage of streaming digital audio and podcast advertising to increase brand awareness as a campaign objective has continued to grow, particularly over the last 3 years. As COVID impacts have continued, agencies have expected digital audio campaigns to work across other campaign objectives as well. Both have been traditionally used to increase engagement, but we've also seen the increased usage of digital audio for shorter term objectives. So supporting sales in a year when lockdowns continue to impact consumer purchasing behaviour. Now let's look at the creative formats being used. Firstly, here looking at streaming audio creative. And we can see that client produced spots remain the most popular streaming creative format. There's also been consistent growth in publisher produced spots and call to action spots. While the usage of dynamic audio creative and voice activated creative formats hasn't grown over the last few years, the intention and the appetite to try them amongst agencies remains really high. Usage of podcast formats have all increased over the last few years. So in particular, the usage of radio recorded spots, brand ads and native audio have all increased. Usage of brand supplied and publisher created podcast spots were assessed in the survey for the first time this year. And we have 44% and 41% of media agencies also using these formats. Now, unfortunately, with the pressures on agencies this year, we've seen a reduction in the frequency of adjusting the creative to suit specific audio environments. So when running campaigns across different broadcast and digital audio options. So in previous years, we've seen that 64% of media agencies at least sometimes change the creative to suit the particular audio environment. And this is reduced to 56% this year. So we know that creative quality is one of the most important drivers of ad effectiveness. And we've got some speakers here today who are going to talk to you why it's worth putting that extra effort in to adapt your creative to suit the different audio environments. So to optimize the impact of brand creative, there's an opportunity here to clarify the different techniques used for audio branding. So the audio or sonic logo is the most used audio branding asset, but it's consistently used by less than half of audio advertisers. So brand anthem and brand voice are also used less consistently than that. So again, today you're going to learn more about this. We've got a presentation coming up on creativity and measuring the effectiveness of these branding assets. Now looking at here at the metrics that are being used to assess the effectiveness of streaming audio and podcast advertising. This year, we did see a reduction in the consistent or usual usage of many metrics that has gone down, but the overall usage of these metrics remain pretty similar to previous years. So we've got reach and completion as the most regularly used metric of assessment for both. Considering the core objective of audio campaigns being brand building, brand metrics there still being somewhat underutilized on a consistent basis. And finally here, we're going to look at the opportunities to drive growth in streaming digital audio and podcast advertising. Media agencies see a big opportunity for greater integration of streaming digital audio and podcasts with other audio channels and into cross-media campaigns. So while agencies recognise the lack of integration, planning and buying audio advertising within agencies continues to be done in silos. So you'll see in the report that only 40% of media agencies are planning and buying all of their audio activities within the same team. So the removal of these planning and buying silos, along with the standardizing measurement, which you can see there as an opportunity, along with increasing the supply of omni-channel programmatic inventory, were all identified as areas for achieving integration and ultimately growth opportunities for 2022. So that's some of the highlights from the sixth wave of the Audio State of the Nation. The full report is available to download from the IAB website, which will outline all of these insights. And I'll now hand back to Gay. I know she's got an amazing lineup of experts today to delve into these themes and really show us how to activate these insights.
Thanks so much, Nat. Amazing research as always, so really useful. Tiff has shared the link to both the press release and the report in the chat box, so feel free to have a look at that after this session, preferably. As I mentioned, we've got a great case study to share with you around Tennis Australia's appetite to build out some brand assets in the audio space. We know from a lot of research that having distinctive brand assets is a real advantage for any brand. And in the audio space, it's probably underutilized, as we've seen from some of the research today. So I'm going to hand over to Ralph and Britt to take you through what they've done.
For an event, a brand, a sport like ours, sound is just absolutely synonymous with the sport, from the rackets to the balls hitting the ground to the roar of the crowd to the live stage music. It was something that was just so prevalent in everything we did, but we didn't have that ownable asset. So we thought it's about time that we looked into really completing our brand toolkit.
Increasingly, events are looking at the world of sonic branding and seeing the success of other tournaments like the Champions League, for example, who've got such strong audio assets, and they're able to exploit them and build their brand up. The way we approach it was pretty much the same as the way we approach any of the briefs, which is looking firstly at what is it that makes this brand unique. What are the things that make it distinctive as an event or in their personality? And then looking at what we can amplify, what attributes of that brand personality we can amplify in sound. And that's kind of the starting point. And then we look at the different musical properties that will be used to reinforce that personality. There were 4 components really helped express what the brand is. And that was Aussie spirit, playfulness, premium, the happy slam. Yes, players and tennis lovers associate the Australian Open as the happy slam. Blue skies and the blue courts, and they're all associated with positivity. So we knew that we wanted to have something which was kind of spontaneous and outgoing that reflected the Australian personality. That was the chant component. And then we've got the interaction where we wanted the crowd to participate, and that's perfect for, you know, an event. But also the playfulness of encouraging the stadium audience to join in with the chant. And then the final one was premium. You know, the tennis audience is a premium audience. So instruments that we used to execute it were orchestral, and that just helped elevate and reflected the sort of the premium quality of the event and the audience that watch it.
It was really to get as many people in the business and externally interacting with the brand sound. For us, you know, that was a bit of a challenge because we did start so late. So it was, how do we get the likes of broadcasters on board? How do we get the likes of our production company, our content teams, even, you know, the sound on the bridge that connects the precinct together? There were so many different things that we had to do. So just to actually see that come to life and see so many different departments take this on board and use it and get excited by it, that was success to us.
And that, you know, the 4 pillars of sonic success in our eyes are something that is going to be distinctive, something that builds rapport, and then the other 2 are really in the hands of the client, and that's consistency and time. We provide sonic guidelines, so in the same way as, you know, visual guidelines are provided for any design, and we recommend how those assets should be used moving forward. You've got different partners coming in and they may want all of the real estate of the 30-second ad and may think that for some reason this doesn't suit. So it does require a strong client and a strong brand to go, no, this is our brand, this represents us. If you've got some other music in there, for example, then we have to find a way to segue into the brand. So you've got those assets that grow in value and act as shorthand over time. It does take that discipline, but we certainly have a strong client. Brand anthem and sonic logo and brand voice are the 3, I guess, most common deliverables that we'd provide in any briefing. The brand anthem is the longer piece of music that is used in, I guess, long form content, can be used across a 30-second or 60-second ad, live events. It can also be used in-store or on hold or versions of that track. And that is a song. It should be composed as a song, as a piece of music that reflects the personality of the brand. And then within that track is a hook that will be repeated maybe 2 or 3, or maybe sometimes 4 times, depending on the length of the track. The track would usually resolve with that phrase. That audio logo can be used on its own to sync up with the brand lockup, the visual lockup of a logo that happens maybe at the end of an ad or a piece of content. But that is like a shorthand to the personality of the longer piece of music. And that enables the brand to use it across short form advertising. It's kind of a little reminder, a little highlight of that longer piece, but also is standalone enough to be able to communicate some meaning and something about the personality. That's usually how the brand anthem and the audio logo work together. It's not the only way, but that's the most common way. And then in terms of brand voice, I know there's a bit of confusion with brand voice because there's tone of voice which comes into that, but the brand voiceover is often cast to be the consistent voice that will be used across all advertising. And any time that a brand needs to personify themselves and actually communicate information, to have a consistent voice helps unite all the communication across multiple platforms. If you've got that, then you can use the shorter form ad lengths more effectively, because you're adding this extra impact of emotion even without saying the brand name. You recognize that voice and you go, oh, that voice usually is upbeat and positive, or that music is usually associated with triumph or excitement. So before you've even said a word, the way you're sounding is expressing something about your personality. And that means, let's say you've got a 6-second ad length, you can focus that 6 seconds on the sort of the rational message and the communication, the call to action, and you've got this underlying emotion which is embedded in that message without actually having to say anything about it. And we're finding that the brands that do have these assets tend to use audio platforms more often, and short form advertising units more often, because they go, well, we can just use this more effectively.
It was quite incredible because once you had this sound and this anthem, everyone got around it. We obviously provided them a toolkit and guidelines with so many different various cut downs and snippets and stings, and to see it used across not only social and content, but through our podcast, through our AO radio show, through our radio spots, even our call center hotline audio that was used there. It was actually quite remarkable to see that it started as something that was so big, but it could actually be broken down into more granular use cases. The positive vibe through absolutely everyone, and just as you were saying before, sitting there as a fan in the stands, watching people film it, watching people clap along to it, watching people applaud it at the end. That was just incredible to see, because you saw it in action, you saw the power that sound had for everyone that came into contact with it. So we are so proud of it. I mean, what I would love to do moving forward is to engage with local musicians, even something like a MSO or the Australian Girls Choir or something like that, to keep building. I mean, obviously we've talked about it before, but time was not on our side for this year. So working with other partners to really bring that kind of local community together to really, amplify it and have a beautiful story to tell at the end, I think would be amazing for next step. Overall, it has been an absolute positive experience, and one I'm just really excited to keep growing. So I look forward to that. That's our KPI for 2023. Number one sound of the summer.
Okay, I hope that inspired everyone. Being a tennis fan, I definitely loved it, and I'll have that chant in my ear for the rest of the day. To the last part of the session today, and the most important part, where we answer the questions that have been posed by market to our experts here. And I'm going to hand over to Brooke and our expert panel. Over to you, Brooke.
Thanks, Gay. Good morning, everyone. As Gay mentioned, if you do have any questions, please pop them in the chat and we'll see how we go with time at the end. Okay, let's get started. Listening behaviours have continued to evolve over the past 12 plus months of work and home habitual environment shifts, resulting in a significant acceleration of listening across connected devices, i.e. smart speakers, wearables, and gaming consoles. Jono Mandel from SCA, how is the industry adapting to capture and engage this growing audience segment?
Thanks, Brooke. Thanks everyone for having me. This is the one Jono, as opposed to all of the other bots that I had online to confuse everyone before. The most interesting change with the landscape and listening behaviors is probably the fact that there's just simply more content than ever before. What we're doing now is consuming more than we had previously. So there's a bit of a myth around that we need to cannibalize or stop consuming one form of content in order to adopt new behaviors. But as it is with all other forms of media, whether it be social or video, we're actually just exploring and consuming more content than ever before, from first thing in the morning right up until the last thing we do at night before going to bed. We have audio with us at all times. And just walking down the street, you will see most people you look at wearing headphones. Now with smart speakers in our homes, we have more audio playing in our homes than we did. There was a long period of time quite recently where kind of the speakers in homes kind of disappeared because of mobile phones, and smart speakers have really brought that back into the home. And what that does is create a whole new range of opportunities for advertisers that the industry is really catering to. If you work along the creative guidelines, and you saw that great case study just before about what you can do with creative, you can then tailor your creative to these different environments, whether it be a particular type of message you direct directly into someone's home because you know they're listening via smart speaker, or if it's maybe directly into someone's ears because you know that they're wearing, noise cancelling AirPods. So the industry is really adapting to create the right content for each of these environments, as well as creating the right advertising opportunities with technology that can identify these different environments and behaviors and make them available to advertisers so that you can actually speak to your audience all throughout the day in whatever context that might be, right up until the moment they go to sleep.
Awesome. Thanks, Jono. That's absolutely what I love most about the audio opportunity, is how much opportunity you have throughout a day to capture somebody. And I really think that's what we need to consider a lot more. Okay. There is a lot of talk about broadcast and digital audio / podcasting being complementary, but what does that mean for buyers and marketers? Oliver Carthy from Cara, what's your perspective on this one?
Hi, Brooke. Thanks for having me today. Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and I'm equally as excited as Jono to be here today because I think audio is such an exciting space. Obviously, it's not exactly nascent in terms of digital maturity, but the past 2 years have massively propelled us forwards in terms of consumption. But I think what's really great to see, and Jono touched on it then, is that while digital audio is going from strength to strength, we're starting to see, radio and broadcast come back to close to pre-COVID levels, which goes to evidence the complementary nature of the different formats. I guess when it comes to how they're complementary, it really depends on the job to be done. If we're looking to extend reach, then there's definitely still some differentiation between different demographics and how they over-index and under-index across traditional broadcast and digital audio. And we can obviously work to get the best incremental mix of that. And you'll usually look at your younger demos for digital audio. But if we're looking at a frequency play and building engagement and where that listenership converges, we can absolutely do that as well. So like I say, it kind of, the world's your oyster a little bit with audio at the moment. And Jono again sort of touched on this, there's a fair bit of overlap here, but we obviously know that digital does follow people throughout the day. And we know that different channels kind of dominate, those environments and contexts as we go through. I think what's really powerful about digital audio is obviously the sheer variety of those environments and those contexts, and obviously the richness of the data that we can sort of use to power connections through digital. And I think the next kind of step on that is really understanding which of those contexts and environments really drive the outcomes that we want in tandem with creative. And then we've actually done some great work with Amplified Intelligence and Spotify in the US and the UK that looks into the strength of the platform and as part of the mix. but also unpacking this, that question around the right environment, right creatives specifically. And we've also done some work in that space locally with some of our clients. I think podcasts, I can't not mention podcasting specifically, because obviously there's been such exponential growth there in the past couple of years, and it opens up a wealth of opportunities where we're thinking of deeper engagement. And thinking about my own personal podcasting experience, up until a couple of years ago, I probably dipped my toe in the water infrequently. Although I can actually still recall the sponsors of the the podcast I did listen to then, which says a lot. But say I listen probably 5 times a week across 3 categories, so that I guess kind of really supports the growth there. And there's such a breadth of content that can deliver that deeper engagement. Things like host reads, sponsorships are not necessarily new in the audio space, but they're great examples of how we can leverage talent and the deep connections that people have to drive engagement. And I think just kind of in closing around podcasting and to wrap up, I guess you can go even further with things like original content creation, and it's a great way to obviously deliver, the dual consumer and brand benefit. Great Southern Bank, one of our clients in Brisbane, created a Clever Way Home podcast that does exactly that. It launched this month and explores the process of buying your first home, and it's a really, really great piece of content. So I guess to kind of sort of summarize, I think 2022 is going to be another huge year for digital audio. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how consumption evolves once again, once people emerge from their work from home sanctums and start to either, be working on site full time or part of hybrid setups. I think it's really exciting to see what's to come, and we're really excited to be at the forefront of that with our clients and brands we work with.
Awesome. And remembering the sponsors of some content you've listened to, that's definitely demonstrates the effectiveness that we're talking about. Okay, Sarah Tillett from Starcom. Audio and podcasts often sit so separately on the media plan as we're not able to track as we would like to, and it's often not integrated into the wider media mix as a result. What improvements are on the horizon in your view?
Yeah, thank you, Brooke, and it's great to be here. So when I think about this, it kind of reminds me personally a bit of what we were going through with BVOD and video overall in the last few years. And kind of to the points that have been made, it's not early stages from a consumer standpoint, but advertiser and solutions we're struggling to catch up. And the audience, the content, the consumer behavior, it's all there. But to your point, the measurement capabilities, they don't perfectly align with traditional audio, traditional radio, and they don't perfectly align with what's available in other digital environments either. And so I think that audio is finding itself in this gray area between the two, and advertisers are kind of struggling to decide, how do we best evaluate and plan against the rest of our channel mix? And so there's a few different ways that we've been looking at this. One of them is simply an extension of channel play. And I think I use the word simply, maybe a bit loosely, because obviously what we're talking about is really how do you build it in with the rest of your mix? How do you demonstrate that incremental benefit? So given it's the crux of the challenge we're addressing, it's not simple at all. But one of the things that we're looking and we're very excited about to bring to our clients is actually a total audio approach. And so this is something that we've been looking at, working on with our tech and publisher partners to create a testing and measurement solution that's really focused on demonstrating incremental reach and frequency across a digital and traditional broadcast radio buy and across demos, and really getting those insights. It's a deterministic solution. It's something we're really excited about because we feel that those proven insights are really going to substantiate advertisers buying into the extension of audio radio approach more frequently. And it's becoming more and more seamless to activate given the level of programmatic inventory available. But again, it's a quite flexible channel, and it's not a one size fit all. So beyond that, we're really looking at how can we be leveraging partners' ecosystems, their full ecosystems, to demonstrate cross-channel engagement and look beyond traditional media KPIs. And so one example would be retail footfall. I did notice in Natalie's presentation showing how out-of-home and audio by being bought in conjunction increased a lot recently. And that's a great example. It's a cool opportunity. It's looking beyond traditional media KPIs, as well as what's the role and the benefit to the holistic mix when you're doing a custom integration into a podcast. And these type of things are clearly very different approaches and very different objectives that they would deliver against. So I think the really important part is just making sure that you're outlining that measurement framework up front. What's the benefit that's being addressed? What's the objective? And what does success look like? Because ultimately, if you're aligned on that up front, then you can really feel when you get to the end of any campaign, you've got tangible insights, actionable incomes, and then you continue to build upon your audio strategy. And I just think it's important. The digital space is going to continue growing more and more, and so will the advertisers' opportunities. So I think brands and agencies need to be focused on the capabilities rather than the limitations, and continue evolving the media strategy alongside audience behavior and passion points.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. Yes, there's certainly opportunity despite the fact that things aren't perfect yet. Okay. How do we continue to improve the role of audio in omni-channel programmatic? What needs to happen with supply, metrics, and tech? Tim Armstrong from Nova, what do you think on this one?
Sure. Thanks, Brooke. Look, it's a big question. And I think that, already today, Oliver, Jonathan, and Sarah have all made, pretty valid points around the fact that there's still some evolving to do in the audio space in terms of how audio fits into the broader media planning process. I think where we should start is probably around technology. I think for many of us, we've been incredibly spoiled working in display, video, native, where we're used to high functioning, high feature technology stacks that allow a lot more capabilities than what we're experiencing right now within the audio space. So audio technologies have maybe leant out a little bit, whereas other technologies in other channels have leaned in. But where we find and tend to operate is with this expectation that audio is going to bring us everything right now that all these other channels do. So that in itself presents a challenge. I think we just need to be a little bit more realistic about the fact that audio tech is still evolving. It will get there. There are promising signs in terms of the new features coming out there. I think the other part of that is really around how that connects to our supply and the activation of that supply across buyers and planners. So, we also are in this environment where, there are a small number of pretty dominant audio ad tech platforms. They may not have, and some of them don't have, the amount of connectivity to all the current and existing buying platforms that a lot of the buying groups have. So there is, in some cases, there is a need to, have another DSP in your tech suite to then be able to access audio. So there's opportunities there, which I know the audio platforms are working towards. And it probably does require a little bit of patience in terms of how we get that overall. And I think, aside from that, there's still a lot to work on around, from a supply point of view, where does audio fit within that mix? Overall, I guess the big one there is really also around data and what data comes with that supply. So obviously podcasting and streaming are naturally consumed in somewhat different environments when it comes to the access of data, especially around individual identity-based attributes, knowing that, the lion's share of podcasting is done in environments where, any media publisher outside of those walled gardens, if we want to call them that, don't get a lot of information or data back to really support who's listening and give us that level of insight we want, or the level of addressability that in a lot of cases the advertisers demand. And then on the flip side of that, streaming is probably more conducive to that. And I know that a lot of the media businesses in this space are busy working towards the same world where cookies are less of a feature and identities are more at the forefront, as the way we want to trade and the way we see the mechanics over time. So I think just to add to that, I think it's the final, so a couple of points around metrics really, and talking about the fact that, there's a lot of complexity in a space which at its essence is relatively kind of simple. I think that, there's a lot of work going on. We obviously have, the podcast measurement specifications through the IAB, which is, may not be in some cases, or some people's eyes, the most robust or accurate measurement we have out of there, but it is a universal measurement that allows everyone to be on that same level. And off the back of that, you get the likes of the podcast ranker, which brings, transparency and insight to, the consumption that is happening, especially in the podcasting space. And, I think the final point I'll make really is around, this measurement and this desire to have this unified measurement across all of audio, regardless of where it's consumed or the method by which it's consumed. And, we've seen TV or video get to a point around that, which is exciting. And, we're also on a similar journey, I guess, in our space where, GFK 360, which is the next iteration of measurement for radio listening this year, will bring a whole new dimension to that and be a pretty pivotal step as we start to kind of work towards that nirvana. And I think, we just need to remember that there are a lot of nirvanas out there, but there's also a lot of steps to get there. So I think a lot of patience and education is still what we need to do. We need to lean in a little bit more and give credit to the tool sets and the metrics and the measurement that is there, and figure out how we best use that along with our technical capabilities to make sure that audio can become a frequent part of the omni-channel conversation.
Thank you, Tim. I hope that audio can move a little bit faster than video, and we can learn from them. Jono, let's talk about creative. Dynamic creative has been around for some time, but has failed to gain any real traction in the audio space. Why do you think this is, and does it matter?
Thanks, Brooke. Absolutely, it matters, because dynamic creative is an amazing technology that is totally underutilized. And I think one of the biggest reasons for it failing to gain real or material traction has probably been cost. It's been quite cost prohibitive over the last couple of years, and there's been it's kind of been monopolized, I suppose, in terms of tech suppliers and vendors that were able to work with publishers to offer it. I think that's now coming down, and there's more vendors with more capability in terms of the dynamic audio creative potential. And I think it probably it got off to a few kind of false starts. And when you're testing something brand new, if you don't set the right test and learn expectations between vendor, publisher, agency, and client, then someone's bound to get burnt by it. And I think what happens a lot is that, one party gets overly excited and the communication ends up breaking down. So setting the right expectations, and particularly test and learn expectations, is absolutely crucial to getting it right. I think we've ironed that out now over the last couple of years, and there are more tech vendors available that have brought the price down and really eliminated that barrier to entry from an advertiser perspective. I can say that from an SCA perspective, we've invested heavily in it. We've actually invested and taken equity in an ad tech vendor called Frequency, which provides dynamic audio creative. And one of our aims is to bring it mainstream with all publishers in mind, all agencies in mind, and make it ubiquitous and accessible to everybody. So the real opportunity there comes with strategy. How do you make sure that, or how do we attain that? I think somebody said, the messaging nirvana before of, delivering the right message to the right user or listener at the right time. And that's what dynamic audio is going to afford us in the future. So bringing the cost down is one major component to it. Teaching and educating on strategy is the next step, making it accessible and changing people's beliefs that it's inaccessible, difficult, and really demonstrating the efficacy, the ease, and the results that you get from it. There are lots of case studies available from most publishers now and on the IAB website, I believe. So I would certainly say that dynamic creative is available now. It's cost effective and it's media effective. It'll get you results.
Thanks, Jono. And I think you're absolutely right. That test framework and measure of success and being really clear on defining that is so key. Still on creative, and we are running quite short on time now, so if I could just ask the panelists to keep their responses pretty concise, aim for 1 to 2 minutes each, please. Still on creative tailoring is often mentioned as having a powerful positive impact on a campaign, particularly in audio. Shannon Hollis from News Corp, can you share an example of how this is being done well?
Hi, Brooke. Hi, guys. Yeah, we know that creative quality is one of the most important drivers of effectiveness, so it's definitely worth putting in the effort. Today, I'll talk specifically to podcasting because I think that's definitely the area where we have the most challenges with creative. I think we've all listened to a podcast where we're listening and then all of a sudden we hear a different voice and it's actually a radio ad that's playing, and it's louder and it's more shouty in your ears, and it's not that intimate experience that you expect from a podcast. So when it comes to podcasting, definitely in News Corp and around the industry, what we're always aiming to do is use the host. Use the authenticity of the host to create the ad. So more authentic, less jarring, allows for stronger integration, and ultimately gives a client a better result for something that can be quite low touch and quite low cost, really. So we've done lots of great examples, but one that works really well for us and actually connects to what was Jono was saying on dynamic creative as well, is that with the Maddie Johns podcast, we create 2 sets of ads every week for Neds, the gambling client. We run a brand campaign early in the week when we know that people aren't punting as much. So overall promoting different brand messaging from Neds. But then from Wednesday to Sunday, we actually switch out live odds that Maddie creates. He ad-libs the whole ad. It sounds really natural and integrated. It's obviously a sport podcast, so it lends itself really well to that environment. And it means that it sounds authentic and it sounds like it fits within the podcast. It's really simple to create. We turn them around in a couple of hours, so really low touch and low cost. So I think that's something to really emphasize for clients. I think if you're thinking about a podcast schedule, you might be doing 4 or 5 different podcasts. Even though you have to create the creative for each podcast, you're going to get a more effective result if you can use the host and integrate that within the podcast rather than creating one and using it across everything. And then also within the IAB library, like we said, there's great examples in there. So the Neds case study will be in there, using that differing creative and making sure that we tailored it every week, twice a week, has been really strong. And actually we found that there was a 63% brand recall, 94% of the audience went on to take action, and 26% actually placed a bet with Ned. So the results that you can get from tailoring creative is really strong and definitely worth considering when you're working through your creative recommendations to your clients.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon. Some huge stats there. Okay, we've got a few more questions and we're running over time. So again, if we can just keep answers short, and sorry, they're big questions to try and fit into a couple of minutes. Measurement comes up quite regularly as an obstacle in the adoption of advertising in digital audio. Jono, how do we improve cross-channel audio planning, reporting and measurement? So just a really small question for you for a 1 minute answer.
Sure, I'll do my best. I think Tim mentioned it before. What's coming later on this year through GFK 360 is crucial. So being able to have that unified measurement across broadcast, FM, DAB, and streaming, so incorporating all of our streaming logs within that is going to be a major benefit to the industry as a whole. And beyond that, streaming, as was mentioned before, is also addressable media. So it's unlike podcasting, which is powered by an RSS feed, you can pass through identifiers, which is really important. So you can do a lot of planning. If it's programmatic in your DSP, you can also work directly with your publisher partners to understand their audiences, ask them about their first party data, which is quite prevalent, more so in audio than in most other media, and utilizing third-party ad servers, verification vendors like pod sites or others are all available through streaming.
Awesome.
I'll cut it there.
Thanks, Jono. Still on measurement, podcast measurement innovation within the podcast industry is seeing new ways of distribution, including via platforms. Daisy Smith from Acast, will this now see the industry move towards new metrics?
Thanks, Brooke. Good morning, everyone. I'll keep it short and sweet. I mean, as we can see from the audio State of the Nation results, reach, frequency, and completion rate are still the key media metrics that we're using when we're thinking about effectiveness in the podcasting space. And the industry is obviously aligned with the IAB podcast measurement guidelines metrics. And this is important as, I suppose, new platforms and new publishers move into this space, because it gives us that standardization of those metrics across providers and really provides clarity in the marketplace, developing common language, and allows for discrepancies to be reduced between publishers and different tech vendors. I suppose the next steps on this, like really as an IAB podcast working group or an audio working group, and as more publishers and platforms start to move into this space, we know we really need to push the industry further on podcast specific measurement. Podcasting is still relatively new advertising medium, right? And as we continue to mature, podcast measurement must be prioritized the same as CTV and display and as video. And we really need collaboration from everyone, right? So us on the publishing side, the platforms, the tech partners, and input from buyers about what's necessary to really build that sort of clear route forward on specific measurement tools for podcasting. And while demand in this space is constantly growing, we are aware that we need innovation in this space to continue to grow and become an integral part of the media plan. I suppose, like, just really quickly, some of the innovations that we're currently exploring in the programmatic space is investigating with DSP partners how we send further contextual data and signals via the bid stream so that we can continue to prioritize transparency and programmatic buying. So there is a lot of work going on in the background in terms of innovation. I guess the second part to this, outside of standard sort of traditional metrics, is then brands wanting to move more into the brand and the business objective space. And I think the expansion of content distribution, while obviously providing expanded audience for content creators and the ability for consumers to choose how they consume content, it does obviously present challenges around real-time concise measurement. But I guess as we start to look beyond the media metrics towards more business and brand outcomes, we can really look at the work being carried out across a range of tech and research vendors, and we can look to work with these partners, right? In terms of, them developing audio specific or podcast specific solutions for various disciplines and really driving innovation in the space. So everything from targeting, from brand suitability, brand impact, and obviously attribution. So yeah, I think we'll continue to see new metrics in terms of sort of standard traditional media metrics, and then also innovations around how we measure brand and business objectives, which will allow us to sort of learn from one campaign and improve on the next. And I think, yeah, this innovation we obviously know is key in terms of sort of helping to prove effectiveness for our clients, and then helping us to grow as podcasting continues to become an integral part of the media mix.
Awesome. Thank you, Daisy. Gay has said we do have 2 minutes and we need to really cut it there. So last question for you, Corey. Corey Layton from ARN.
Hey, Brooke, lucky
Hello.
I'm short. I will keep it short.
Thank you. Effectiveness is really what we want to achieve for advertisers. What is the best way to prove or assess how this will work in the media mix?
I think that this really leads to this inner myth that you can't measure podcasts, and actually you absolutely can. And when you look at the results of the State of the Nation, one of the stats that grabs me is that over 30% of media agencies say that the lack of measurement and effectiveness measurements is what is affecting the investment. And I think it's on everyone whose faces you can see here as the Brady Bunch to help better communicate the industry's vast changes when it comes to measurement. Very quickly, there are 4 types of measurement. The first is brand lift studies. You do a pre-dip, a post-dip, you see the difference in the audience. It is the true and tried measurement that has been around for a long time. Where things have evolved over the last couple of years is regarding campaign measurement. So most publishers now provide advertisers with real-time access to monitor reach, frequency, geolocation, delivery, and ARN, for instance, provides every single advertiser with their own dashboard to be able to monitor that in real time. Typically, vendors like Podsites and AdsWiz is who most publishers tend to use. You can step up from that with attribution. So if you were listening to a podcast this morning on your phone and then went through to the brand's website or downloaded their app, you can now track who heard the ad and then made that call to action. So things like promo codes and vanity URLs are absolutely a thing of the past. And lastly, footfall. You can measure footfall when it comes to podcasts. Providers like Bliss, Near, Hype, all provide it to be able to track by placing a pixel on the ad and then monitoring what most people are listening to podcasts being the mobile device. So things have well and truly changed. That's the speediest way I can sum it up for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Corey. That was some really helpful, tangible solutions there for everyone. Thank you all very much to our panelists, and I'll hand back to Gay to wrap things up.
Thanks so much, Brooke. And I think I need you running my life to keep me on schedule for keeping me on time. Thank you for all the answers there. We are going to gather them all up into a document and publish them, so you've got them all in one place. As a couple of the speakers have mentioned, we've got a great case study library that's got audio case studies, but a whole lot of other things as well. Dig around. There's some great sort of examples of effective campaigns in there across the board. Our next, fingers crossed, and it has to be true, live event, IAB live event will be early April, which is our Digital AdOps conference. We run 2 AdOps conferences a year. This is the Sydney one. We're trying a new big space. We're very excited about the lineup. We'll be talking programmatic transparency, CTV developments, privacy, talent shortages, all the latest changes in signals, not just cookies, but all of them, and much, much more. So anyone who's an IAB member gets 2 free tickets for their organisation. So make sure you register. And we're looking forward to hanging out with you all in person. Thank you to all the guests who joined today. There was a lot of knowledge and talent there, being very generous, sharing their ideas and thoughts there. So thank you all to all the speakers, and thank you to all of you for joining us today, and we'll catch up with you soon.